The situation unfolding right now between Atlanta, Cleveland, and the quarterback carousel spinning around Kevin Stefanski is one of the most revealing stories in the NFL this offseason, and it all connects directly back to one name, Shedeur Sanders. What started as a quarterback competition in Cleveland has turned into a full-blown organizational crisis in Atlanta before a single regular season snap has even been taken. Atlanta's owner is not happy. The front office is under scrutiny. And the man at the center of all of it, Kevin Stefanski, is carrying a pattern of decision-making from Cleveland to Atlanta that is impossible to ignore. Let's be precise about what is actually happening here. Dylan Gabriel is not coming to Atlanta. Not now, and based on everything happening behind the scenes, probably not ever. The moment that news dropped, the reaction from Cleveland was almost audible, a collective exhale from a fanbase that had spent months watching Stefanski prioritize Gabriel over a quarterback who was simply outperforming him on the field. Because what Gabriel's absence from Atlanta confirms is not just a personnel decision. It confirms a pattern, a deeply troubling pattern that stretches back through every quarterback decision Stefanski made during his final stretch in Cleveland and now threatens to define his entire tenure with the Falcons before it even properly begins. Atlanta's quarterback room heading into this stretch looks like a collection of question marks stacked on top of each other. Michael Penix Jr. is the quarterback they have publicly committed to building around. Tua Tagovailoa has been brought into the mix, a move that immediately raises health and availability conversations that follow him everywhere he goes. And then there is Trevor Siemian, a free agent addition who, at this stage of his career, represents exactly what his presence in that room suggests, a veteran with longevity but zero realistic upside as a starting option. Siemian has been in the NFL for over a decade. His value at this point is mentorship and roster depth, not competition or development. The fact that he is being added to a room that is supposed to be centered around a young franchise quarterback tells you something about the clarity, or lack thereof, in Stefanski's vision for this offense. And Dylan Gabriel? The quarterback Stefanski reportedly backed so aggressively in Cleveland that it became a defining feature of his coaching approach there? Not present. Not arriving. Left behind entirely. A man who was positioned as a centerpiece of Stefanski's quarterback philosophy in Cleveland is not even in the building when Stefanski gets his next opportunity. If that is not a signal worth paying attention to, nothing in this offseason is. Here is what people keep tiptoeing around but what the facts demand be said directly. Kevin Stefanski had a clear preference in Cleveland, and that preference came at a documented, observable cost to Shedeur Sanders. The way Shedeur was managed throughout his time competing for that starting role was not standard quarterback competition protocol. Representatives were limited in ways that interrupted momentum at critical points. Every time Shedeur built something, every time the evidence on the field started pointing clearly in one direction, something pulled the narrative back. Dylan Gabriel was continuously pushed forward as the preferred option, positioned as the answer before the question had even been properly asked. What makes this infuriating when you examine it with honest eyes is what Shedeur Sanders actually did when he got his opportunities. He made plays. He extended drives under pressure. He demonstrated the kind of pre-snap defensive recognition that scouts genuinely cannot teach. You either have that processing speed or you don't, and Shedeur Sanders demonstrably has it. He showed composure in moments where less experienced quarterbacks fold. He produced results that justified far more opportunity than he was being given. And yet the story being pushed around that quarterback room positioned Shedeur as the uncertainty and Gabriel as the steady hand, which was a direct inversion of what the actual football was showing. Gabriel's performance in critical moments did not justify the confidence being placed in him. Throws that needed to be on time were late. Decision windows that a quarterback operating at this level must hit were missed. The production on the field did not match the narrative being constructed around him. But the narrative kept being constructed anyway, and Shedeur Sanders kept having to prove himself in an environment that was not structured to let him succeed. That imbalance, that visible, documented double standard, is now being directly connected back to Stefanski's judgment as a quarterback evaluator and developer. And now Stefanski is in Atlanta, starting fresh, and Gabriel is not with him. Source: NFL offseason reporting on Stefanski's move to Atlanta and Gabriel's status. The pivot happened fast and quietly. The loyalty evaporated the moment the professional context changed. And that quiet departure is, in the language of NFL front offices, an admission. Not spoken, nobody in this league ever admits anything openly, but demonstrated through action. Stefanski's actions in Atlanta are telling a story about what his decisions in Cleveland actually meant. Atlanta's ownership is watching this in real time, and the reaction has not been one of patient optimism. When ownership responds publicly, or even semi-publicly, to the way a front office is assembling a roster, it means the concern runs deeper than a single decision. This is not frustration about one missed trade or one free agent who went elsewhere. This is frustration about direction. About whether the person making quarterback decisions actually has a coherent, defensible vision, or whether he is simply gravitating toward whatever feels familiar and comfortable, regardless of whether it actually works. The reaction internally to how this quarterback room has been built has not been quiet satisfaction. It has been the kind of reaction that moves through organizations quickly, that signals to every level of the front office that the person at the top is engaged, is paying close attention, and is not impressed with what they are seeing. When an owner gets loud, even through channels that are not fully public, it means the honeymoon phase is finished. Stefanski arrived in Atlanta carrying a resume and a reputation built in Cleveland. But the quarterback decisions he is making right now, before the regular season even begins, are already generating the same kinds of questions that followed him out of Cleveland. Reputations do not win football games. Decisions do. And the decisions being made around the quarterback position in Atlanta are raising serious concerns at the organizational level before this team has played a meaningful snap together. Dylan Gabriel's situation, examined carefully, tells a story that goes beyond one player's career trajectory. Gabriel was drafted, developed within a specific narrative, positioned as a foundational piece of Stefanski's quarterback philosophy, and then, without ceremony, without a prolonged public debate, left behind the moment Stefanski moved to a new environment where he needed to rebuild his credibility. The speed of that departure is significant. Gabriel's statistics during his time as the featured option in Cleveland did not justify the investment being made in his development over Shedeur Sanders. Anyone watching those games without a predetermined conclusion could see it. The throws were not consistently where they needed to be. The decision-making under pressure was not at the level required. And yet the organizational energy around Gabriel continued, and Shedeur continued to operate in a managed, constrained environment that limited what he could demonstrate. Gabriel was used to validate a decision that had already been made, and when that validation was no longer needed in a new city, Gabriel became expendable almost immediately. That is the part of this story that is genuinely difficult to watch if you followed it closely. Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback who produced when given real opportunity, whose talent was never seriously in question among evaluators who watched him without an agenda, is left on the outside looking in while the man who managed his opportunities so carefully is rebuilding his reputation in a different city, with a completely different quarterback room, having quietly abandoned the player he allegedly believed in so strongly. What separates Shedeur Sanders from almost every other quarterback caught in a political situation like this one is what he has done in response to it. He has not been loud. He has not posted cryptic commentary or made pointed public statements designed to shift blame. He has stayed focused on football, stayed sharp in his preparation, and let the work speak. That discipline under pressure is itself a form of proof that the narratives constructed around him during his time in Cleveland were not reflections of his character or his readiness, but reflections of the environment he was placed in. When Shedeur Sanders was given genuine opportunity, not managed representatives, not carefully controlled appearances designed to support a pre-existing narrative, he was the most compelling quarterback in that building. He processed defenses before the snap. He extended plays when the pocket collapsed. He demonstrated the pocket presence and accuracy under duress that defines quarterbacks who go on to have long, productive professional careers. None of that has changed because of one off-season of organizational politics. If anything, navigating what he navigated in Cleveland and still performing the way he did only adds to the documented case for what Shedeur Sanders is capable of. The right situation exists for him. The right offensive system, the right coaching staff, the right organizational commitment. When those elements align with the talent Shedeur has already put on film, the result is going to be something the entire NFL is forced to pay attention to. The league corrects its mistakes. Not always quickly. Not always cleanly. But the truth about a quarterback's ability surfaces eventually, and everything happening with Stefanski and Gabriel right now is accelerating that process for Shedeur. For Atlanta, the immediate challenge is managing a quarterback room that looks more like a transitional experiment than a long-term plan. Michael Penix Jr. needs a stable, clear environment to develop properly. Inconsistency and organizational noise at the quarterback position is exactly what stunts young quarterbacks at this level. Tua Tagovailoa brings talent but also brings a health history that generates uncertainty in every conversation about him. And Trevor Siemian, who has survived in this league through professionalism and adaptability, is not a developmental solution for a franchise trying to establish its quarterback future. Stefanski has to demonstrate to Atlanta's ownership, and he has to do it quickly, that his approach to quarterback management has genuinely evolved. Because based on the evidence from Cleveland and the early signals from Atlanta, the same instincts that created problems in one city appear to be fully operational in the next. That is not a sustainable position for a head coach who is supposed to be starting fresh with organizational trust and patience behind him. The bottom line of everything happening right now is this: Kevin Stefanski had a chance in Cleveland to build something around one of the most talented young quarterbacks in this draft class. He had Shedeur Sanders in front of him. He had the production on film. He had the evidence. Instead, he managed a narrative around a player who couldn't deliver on the promise being attached to him, limited the opportunities of a quarterback who was outperforming expectations, and then moved to a new city and quietly left that entire chapter behind, including Dylan Gabriel, the player whose presence was used to justify the whole arrangement. Atlanta's owner is frustrated. The quarterback room is a question mark. Dylan Gabriel is not in the building. And Shedeur Sanders is still the most talented quarterback at the center of this entire story, waiting for an organization that is willing to let the football speak louder than the politics. That story is not finished. It is not even close to finished. And every development that comes out of Atlanta this offseason is going to keep pointing back to the same truth: Shedeur Sanders was not the problem in Cleveland. He was never the problem. And the situation unfolding in Atlanta right now is the most complete, public proof of that available. If you have been watching this story unfold and you know that Shedeur Sanders deserves a real, genuine opportunity in this league, not a managed one, not a political one, but a real one built on what the football actually shows, smash that like button right now. Every like tells the algorithm that this story matters, that accountability in the NFL matters, and that the truth about what happened in Cleveland deserves to be heard. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss a single update as this situation continues to develop in Atlanta, because based on everything we are seeing, this story has a great deal more to reveal. The truth always finds its way to the surface, and right now, it is moving fast.